Human maid begged her to stop. What the alien diplomat's fiancé did to the baby shocked all. Clara had never been on a ship like this before. The transport from Earth to Valira 9 had been long and tiring, and she could still feel the ache in her legs from sitting in the narrow human-class cabin. Unlike many humans, she did not mind the discomfort too much. She had traveled before, helping in homes of diplomats and officials, but this assignment was different. This was the first time she would serve at an alien embassy. And not just any embassy. The Goran Embassy, known for its strict rules, advanced technology, and a very particular set of traditions. She clutched her small bag, her fingers tight around the strap. Inside were simple things, a few clothes, a notebook, and some personal items she always carried for comfort. She had been told that the Gorans valued discipline and that every human staff member had to follow the routines precisely. Clara had learned to be careful. Humans were few here, and mistakes could cost more than embarrassment. They could ruin lives. When the shuttle docked at the embassy, Clara stepped onto the polished metal floor of the landing platform. Everything smelled strange, like ozone mixed with the faint scent of flowers she did not recognize. The building itself towered over her. Its walls shimmered with a strange blue light, and as she walked toward the entrance, she felt the hum of energy in the air. It was unlike anything she had ever felt on Earth. Inside, the embassy was quiet but alive. Soft lights glowed along the walls, and the corridors curved in ways that made her feel slightly dizzy. Clara kept her head low, not wanting to draw attention. She had been given instructions. Do your work, observe, and stay out of the way. That was it. Yet even as she followed these rules, her heart raced with curiosity. She had heard stories about the Gorans, how they were logical and precise, how they could manipulate energy and technology in ways humans could only dream of. Her guide was a young Goran named Lyrak. Unlike most of the older Gorans she had read about, Lyrak had a soft demeanor. His tall frame and sharp, angular features still made him look alien, but his eyes, large and golden, seemed curious rather than cold. He spoke in soft tones, guiding her through the hallways. "This way, human," he said. "The nursery is near the east wing. The fiancé has requested your presence there." Clara felt a flutter of nerves. The nursery. She had never worked directly with Goran children before. Most humans at the embassy handled cleaning or serving meals, but Liara, the fiancée of the diplomat Xyler, had specifically asked for her. Clara wondered why. She did not know much about the fiancée, only that she was tall, elegant, and deeply respected. There were whispers among the embassy staff that Liara had unusual methods for taking care of her child. Strange methods, the human staff had said. As they approached the nursery, Clara could hear faint sounds, soft humming, and a light giggle. The sound was unusual, melodic, but not quite like any human laughter. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. She reminded herself that she was trained for this. She had worked with children before, and humans were adaptable. Maybe the Goran way would be different, but she could handle it. The door to the nursery opened, revealing a room bathed in soft light. The walls shimmered gently, and small floating orbs moved around the room, glowing with gentle pulses. Clara blinked, trying to focus. In the center of the room, a small crib hovered slightly above the ground, supported by thin streams of energy she could barely see. And there, sitting beside it, was Liara. Liara was more striking in person than Clara had imagined. Her skin had a faint metallic sheen, shifting subtly with her movements, and her eyes were large and luminous. Her hands moved gracefully over the crib, manipulating the floating orbs with small, precise gestures. The baby inside was no larger than a human infant, but had a faint glow under its skin, pulsing with each movement. Clara stepped forward slowly, her voice quiet. "Good morning," she said, trying to keep her tone calm and polite. Liara glanced at her briefly, her expression unreadable. She nodded once and continued her work, her hands moving faster now. Clara could not help but watch. The orbs floated around the baby, weaving patterns in the air that Clara did not understand. Each time the orbs moved, the baby's skin shimmered brighter, and it let out a soft laugh that was high and musical. Clara took a small step closer, unsure what was expected of her. She had been told to assist, but the instructions had been vague. She saw one of the orbs move too close to the baby's head, and instinctively she reached out her hand. Maybe it should be slower," she suggested softly. Liara stopped for a moment, her hands hovering in the air. Her eyes flicked to Clara, and for the first time Clara saw surprise in them. Then Liara smiled faintly. "You are not afraid?" she asked, her voice soft but tinged with curiosity. Clara shook her head. "No, I just want to help, that's all." Liara studied her for a long moment, then returned her attention to the baby. Clara noticed that the baby seemed to respond differently now. The glow around it softened, and its tiny hands reached toward Clara instinctively. Clara froze, surprised. She had never worked with a child that reacted so strongly to simple human touch. As the minutes passed, Clara found herself moving more confidently. She spoke softly to the baby, her words slow and gentle. The child's glow pulsed in rhythm with her voice, and the floating orbs slowed their movements as if acknowledging her presence. Clara realized something remarkable. The baby seemed to prefer her voice over the complex energy patterns Liara had been using. Liara finally spoke again. "Interesting," she said quietly. "Humans, you have a gift." Clara blinked. "A gift?" she asked. "You understand the simplest way to calm life," Liara replied. "Even with all my tools and methods, the child listens to you more." Clara felt a mix of pride and worry. She did not want to offend the fiancé, she simply did what felt natural. But seeing the reaction of the baby made her heart swell. It was strange and wonderful. She had heard humans could be underestimated, even mocked in places like this. But now, standing in a high-tech alien nursery, she realized how much humans could surprise others. Liara continued her work, now observing rather than intervening. Clara spoke gently to the baby, humming a soft tune she remembered from her childhood. The baby's tiny hands reached toward her, and it let out a series of happy, musical sounds. Clara laughed softly, feeling a warmth she had not expected. As the morning progressed, more staff entered the room. Some were human, others Goran or from other species present in the embassy. They watched quietly, whispering among themselves. Clara felt a moment of nervousness. Were they judging her? But then she noticed the expressions of amazement on their faces. The baby, glowing brighter, seemed content in her presence. Even Liara's demeanor had softened. She watched Clara with an intensity that was hard to read. Then, surprisingly, she spoke to her in a gentle tone. "Human, stay close. You will assist me with the child today. I want to see what more you can do." Clara nodded, trying to hide her excitement. She had not expected to be given such a responsibility on her first day. But the thought of helping the child, of being trusted, made her heart beat faster. She realized that humans could do more than survive here. They could teach, guide, and even lead in ways that advanced alien species did not anticipate. The day went on, and Clara found herself learning quickly. She observed the floating orbs, noticed the patterns in the baby's reactions, and discovered small ways to adjust her tone and gestures to make the child calm and happy. The Goran staff watched in quiet amazement. By the end of the day, Clara's hands were sore from gentle motions, but her spirit was high. She had not only survived her first day at the embassy, but had also proven, in her quiet way, that humans could shine in even the most alien environments. As she left the nursery, Liara looked at her one last time. "You may have more to teach me than I thought," she said, her voice soft but full of respect. Clara smiled faintly, her mind buzzing. She knew that this was just the beginning. The embassy was vast, and the world of aliens she had entered was filled with mysteries. But for the first time, she felt that humans were not just passengers in this galaxy. They could be players, powerful in ways others could not yet understand. That night, as Clara lay in her small quarters, she thought about the baby, the floating orbs, and Liara's unusual methods. She had no idea what the future held, but she felt ready. She had discovered something important today. That sometimes the simplest actions, a gentle voice or a kind touch, could outshine even the most advanced technology. And in a place where humans were often underestimated, that was the beginning of something extraordinary. The next morning, Clara woke early. The sun of Velira 9 was a pale blue disk in the sky, casting soft light into her quarters. She stretched and rubbed her eyes, thinking about the events of the previous day. The baby had responded to her voice and touch in ways no one expected. She had never imagined that a human could calm a Goran child better than their own technology and rituals. It was strange, but also exciting. Clara felt a sense of purpose she had not felt before. When she arrived at the nursery, Liara was already there. The Goran fiancée moved with her usual grace, her tall figure illuminated by the soft glow of the hovering orbs. The baby lay in the floating crib, its small body glowing faintly. It looked around curiously, and when it saw Clara, it reached toward her with tiny hands. Clara smiled and stepped closer, letting her fingers brush against the child's soft skin. The baby giggled, and the sound was like wind chimes ringing softly. "Good morning," Clara said gently. "Did you sleep well?" The baby responded with another giggle, moving its tiny hands toward her again. Clara laughed quietly. She felt a strange warmth inside her chest. She had never imagined that she could feel such a connection with a child so different from humans. Yet here she was, and the bond felt real. Liara watched silently, her expression unreadable. Then she spoke, her voice calm but firm. "Human, I will demonstrate the next stage. Observe carefully. This is how Goran children are strengthened from birth." Clara nodded, her curiosity mixed with concern. She had seen the floating orbs yesterday, the way they interacted with the baby's nervous system. She understood they were powerful, and she did not want the child to be harmed. She stepped closer, careful to keep her hands ready if needed. Liara lifted both hands, and the orbs began to swirl faster around the crib. The light from the child's body grew brighter with each motion. Clara felt a hum in the air, as if the energy itself was alive. She noticed that the baby's tiny body stiffened slightly, then relaxed again as if responding to commands it did not understand. Clara's instincts told her something was not right. The process was too fast, too strong for a child so young. Maybe slower," Clara said softly, trying not to sound critical. Liara glanced at her, her eyes narrowing slightly. "You hesitate," she said. "Do you fear harm to the child?" Clara shook her head. "No, I think the child might feel better if it is gentle. Humans respond well to touch and calm words." Liara considered this, then unexpectedly she smiled faintly. "You are not wrong, but strength is necessary. The child must learn to control the energy. It is important." Clara nodded, though her heart raced. She understood the importance of the training, but she also knew the baby's comfort mattered. She stepped closer, placing a hand gently on the crib's edge. "I can help," she offered. "I can help the baby stay calm while you do your work." Liara studied her for a long moment. Then she moved her hands in a slow, controlled motion. The orbs began to swirl again, but this time Clara noticed the baby's reaction. Its glow flickered, pulsing in rhythm with Clara's soft humming. She reached toward the child's hand, letting her fingers brush the tiny palm. The baby's body relaxed immediately. Clara smiled softly, feeling a quiet triumph. The other staff members had started to gather outside the nursery. Some peeked in through the transparent walls, whispering in low tones. Clara noticed their surprise. No human had ever worked alongside a Goran caretaker in this way before. The baby was responding more to her than to Liara's advanced methods. Clara could feel the weight of their attention, but she kept her focus on the child. Liara continued her movements, now observing Clara closely. The orbs swirled around the crib, weaving intricate patterns of light. Clara spoke softly to the baby, her voice steady and soothing. "It's okay," she said. "You're safe. Nothing will hurt you." The baby's tiny hands reached toward her, and the glow from its skin brightened. Clara noticed something astonishing. The child seemed to understand her words. Its small body moved in harmony with her voice, almost as if it was trying to mimic her calmness. Clara's heart leapt. This was beyond anything she had expected. Suddenly, one of the orbs flickered and moved too close to the baby's head. Clara's instincts kicked in. She reached out and moved it away gently. Liara's eyes widened for the first time. She did not speak, but her hands froze in midair. The staff outside gasped softly. They had never seen a human intervene with the orbs without hesitation. Clara looked at Liara. "It's okay," she said softly. "The baby is safe." Liara nodded slowly, her expression thoughtful. "You have courage," she said quietly. "Humans are unpredictable." Clara smiled faintly. "I just do what feels right," she replied. Liara studied her carefully. Then she made a decision. She slowed her movements and allowed Clara to guide the baby's comfort. The two worked together, one using advanced Goran technology, the other using human touch and voice. The baby giggled, its glow pulsing brightly. Clara felt a sense of wonder. She had never imagined that humans could match or even complement alien methods in such a way. As the morning passed, Clara began to notice small details. The baby responded to her tone, her gestures, even her breathing. Liara's eyes followed every movement, studying the human's methods. Clara realized that the alien fiancé was learning from her, just as she was learning from the Goran techniques. It was a strange and powerful feeling. At one point, Liara moved the orbs into a new formation, creating a soft shield around the crib. Clara noticed the baby's reaction immediately. The child tensed slightly, unsure of the change. Clara reached out, her hand hovering over the child's tiny body. "It's okay," she whispered. "You are safe. You can relax." The baby's glow softened, its body relaxing once more. Liara watched closely, then nodded in approval. "You are remarkable," she said softly. "Perhaps humans are not as weak as I thought." Clara felt a rush of pride but kept her focus on the baby. She understood the importance of caution. The Goran methods were powerful, and one wrong step could cause harm. She kept her voice steady, her hands gentle, and her attention on the child. The baby responded with tiny giggles and soft movements, reaching toward Clara as if it already knew her. As the day wore on, Clara began to feel a strange connection to the child. She could sense its moods, its reactions, even its small bursts of energy. The other staff watched quietly, whispering among themselves. They had never seen a human display such instinctive understanding of alien life. Liara finally spoke after a long period of observation. "Human, your presence, it changes the process. The child responds in ways I did not expect." Clara nodded. "I just want to help," she said simply. Liara smiled faintly, a rare expression for a Goran. "You may be more valuable than I realized," she said. "The baby seems to trust you more than the orbs." Clara felt a mixture of pride and nervousness. She had never thought of herself as special. She was just a human maid, trained to assist, to serve, and to care. Yet here she was, teaching a Goran diplomat's fiancé something she had never learned from anyone else. The thought was both exhilarating and frightening. By late afternoon, Clara noticed that the baby was calm and happy. Its tiny hands reached for her repeatedly, and it laughed in the soft, musical way that had first drawn her attention. Clara realized that the child's comfort depended on her presence as much as Liara's methods. She felt a sense of responsibility she had never experienced before. Liara observed quietly, then spoke to the gathering staff. "See this," she said, her voice calm but commanding. "Observe how the human guides the child. There is a balance between strength and care, and today we learn from her." Clara felt her cheeks warm. She had not expected recognition, especially not from Liara. Yet, as she looked around at the watching diplomats and staff, she realized something important. Humans were often underestimated. They were small, fragile, and seemingly powerless compared to advanced alien species. But here, in this room, she was proof that humans could teach, guide, and even lead in ways others could not anticipate. As the day ended, Clara finally stepped back. The baby was calm, glowing softly and content. Liara approached her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You are extraordinary," she said simply. Clara smiled, feeling a quiet pride. She knew this was just the beginning. The embassy was full of challenges, and the world of the Gorans was complex and advanced. Yet today, she had proven something remarkable. Humans were not just passengers in this galaxy. They could shape events, teach lessons, and even command respect from species far older and more advanced than themselves. That night, Clara returned to her quarters exhausted but happy. She thought about the baby, the floating orbs, and Liara's unusual methods. She had never imagined that a human could make such a difference, that simple words and gentle touch could outshine advanced alien technology. She understood something important. In a galaxy filled with power and skill, humans had something unique. They had empathy, intuition, and the ability to surprise. And sometimes that was more powerful than any tool. Clara lay in bed, her mind buzzing with the events of the day. She could feel the baby's tiny hands in her mind, the way it had reached for her, the way it had responded to her voice. She realized that tomorrow would bring new challenges. Liara would have more tests, more techniques, and the other staff would watch closely. But she felt ready. She had discovered her strength, and she knew humans had a place here, even among the stars. The next morning, Clara arrived at the nursery feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. She had learned so much yesterday, but today she sensed that something bigger was about to happen. The air inside the embassy had a strange hum, almost like it was alive. The floating orbs glowed softly as she entered, and the baby turned its head toward her with curious eyes. Clara smiled and knelt beside the crib. "Good morning," she said gently. "Did you sleep well?" The baby responded with a soft giggle, reaching toward her hand. Clara held it carefully, letting the child grasp her fingers. There was a strange warmth in the baby's tiny touch, and Clara felt a connection she had never felt before. It was as if the child recognized her not just as a caretaker, but as someone who understood it completely. Liara stood nearby, watching. She moved with her usual elegance, her glowing eyes fixed on the baby and Clara. "Today," she said softly, "you will see the true potential of Goran methods. This is why humans usually do not work directly with the children. Most do not understand the energy." Clara swallowed hard but nodded. She had faced difficult situations before, but she could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. The Goran methods were powerful, and she needed to be careful. Yet she also knew that the baby trusted her, and that gave her courage. Liara lifted her hands, and the orbs began to move faster, swirling in complex patterns. The baby's glow grew brighter, and it started to make soft sounds that were almost musical. Clara noticed that the child's tiny body tensed slightly at the sudden increase in energy. She stepped closer and spoke gently. "It's okay. You are safe. You can relax." The baby's glow softened a little, responding to her voice. Liara's eyes flicked toward Clara, studying her reaction. "Interesting," she murmured. "The human's influence, it calms the child in ways I cannot predict." Clara realized that she had to stay focused. She reached out her hand and hovered it above the baby, letting the child feel her presence. The baby's hands reached toward her again, and it giggled softly. Clara felt a surge of pride, but she kept her attention on the child. She understood that today would be different. Liara's methods were about to become more intense, and she needed to protect the baby while learning everything she could. Suddenly, Liara's movements became faster, and the orbs swirled in intricate patterns. The energy in the room increased, and the hum grew louder. Clara felt a shiver run down her spine. The baby's body glowed brighter, pulsing with the swirling energy. Clara reached toward the child, holding her hands close to guide it. "Steady," she whispered. "You are safe." The baby responded immediately, its tiny body relaxing in her presence. Clara realized that her voice and touch were the only things keeping the child calm. Liara's hands moved more rapidly now, testing the limits of the child's energy. Clara felt her heart pound. She had never seen anyone push so hard on such a small being. "Stop!" Clara said suddenly, her voice louder than before. She reached out and gently moved the orbs away from the baby. The energy around the crib slowed immediately, and the baby let out a soft sigh, its glow dimming to a gentle pulse. Liara froze, her eyes wide. She had never seen a human intervene so boldly. "You dare," she began, her voice calm but sharp, "to stop my method." Clara did not step back. "Yes," she said firmly. "The baby is too young, this is too much. Please, we can continue slowly." Liara studied her carefully. Then she did something Clara did not expect. She smiled faintly, almost approvingly. "You are braver than most humans," she said. "Perhaps too brave, but I see. The child listens to you. I will adjust." Clara felt a mixture of relief and surprise. She had not expected approval, but she knew that Liara's acknowledgement meant she could continue protecting the baby while learning. She stepped closer and placed her hand gently on the child's tiny body. The baby's glow pulsed softly, as if acknowledging her touch. As the day progressed, Liara began a new set of exercises. She used the orbs to create small energy fields around the baby, testing its reactions. Clara spoke softly to the child, guiding it through each test. The baby responded immediately, calming and adjusting to the energy with Clara's help. Other staff members had started to gather outside the nursery. They whispered among themselves, clearly astonished. They had never seen a human take such control in a Goran child's training. Clara felt their eyes on her but did not let it distract her. Her focus was entirely on the baby. At one point, Liara moved the orbs into a tight formation around the baby's head. Clara noticed the child's tiny hands twitch nervously. She reached out and hovered her hand just above the baby, letting it feel her presence. "You can do this," she whispered. "You are safe with me." The baby's body relaxed immediately and its glow softened. Liara watched silently, her golden eyes fixed on Clara. She had seen many humans in her life, but none had shown this level of instinctive understanding. Clara realized that Liara was learning from her as much as she was learning from the Goran methods. Suddenly, one of the orbs flickered and shot toward the baby faster than expected. Clara reacted instantly, moving her hands to shield the child. The orb slowed and hovered harmlessly above the crib. Clara breathed a sigh of relief. The baby looked up at her, giggling softly, and reached toward her hand. Liara's eyes widened. "Incredible," she murmured. "You protect the child without fear. You understand." Clara nodded, her hands trembling slightly. "I just do what feels right," she said. The rest of the morning passed in a mixture of careful exercises and gentle guidance. Clara learned to predict the baby's reactions to the energy fields and the orbs, adjusting her voice and touch accordingly. The baby responded instantly, its glow pulsing in rhythm with her words. Clara felt a deep connection growing between them. By afternoon, Liara decided to introduce a new element. She activated a small, hovering device that emitted soft pulses of energy around the crib. Clara's heart raced. The device was advanced, far beyond anything she had seen before. She could feel the energy in the air, strong but controlled. Clara took a deep breath and stepped closer to the baby. She held her hand above the child's tiny body, letting it feel her presence. "It's okay," she whispered. "I am here, you are safe." The baby responded immediately, its tiny hands reaching for her. Its glow softened, pulsing gently. Clara felt a surge of pride. She had learned to balance the alien technology with her own human instincts. She realized something powerful. Humans could teach empathy, patience, and calmness even in the most advanced environments. Liara watched quietly, her expression thoughtful. She made small adjustments to the device, observing the baby's reactions. Clara guided the child gently, her voice steady and calm. The baby's glow pulsed in response, showing signs of understanding and comfort. Suddenly, the baby reached out toward the floating orbs. Clara moved her hands to intercept, but the child's tiny fingers touched one of them. Instead of harming it, the orb reacted gently, moving in harmony with the baby's touch. Clara gasped softly. This was the first time the child had interacted with the technology on its own. Liara's eyes widened. She had not expected this. "The human," she whispered. You have taught the child control." Clara smiled faintly, feeling a deep sense of wonder. She had never imagined that a human could influence a Goran child so profoundly. The baby's glow pulsed brighter, and it laughed softly, reaching toward her again. The rest of the afternoon passed in a mixture of awe and careful observation. Clara guided the baby through new exercises, using her voice and touch to calm and direct it. The baby responded immediately, showing signs of understanding and control. Clara realized that she had found a unique strength within herself. By evening, the baby was calm and content. Its glow pulsed softly, and it reached for Clara one last time before being placed back in the crib. Clara felt a mixture of relief and pride. She had survived another day, protected the child, and learned more about her own abilities. Liara approached her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You are remarkable," she said quietly. "The child trusts you more than I expected. Perhaps humans have powers we cannot measure." Clara smiled, feeling warmth in her chest. She had learned an important lesson today. Humans could adapt, understand, and protect in ways that even the most advanced species could not. She had discovered something extraordinary about herself, and she knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges and surprises. As she left the nursery, Clara felt a sense of purpose she had never felt before. She had proven that humans were not weak, not powerless. They had instincts, empathy, and courage that could influence even the most advanced aliens, and she knew that this was only the beginning. That night, as Clara lay in her quarters, she thought about the day's events. She had faced fear, responsibility, and the unknown, and she had succeeded. She realized that humans had a place in this galaxy, not just as helpers, but as beings who could teach, guide, and inspire. And she felt ready for whatever came next. The next day, Clara arrived at the nursery earlier than usual. She had learned so much about the baby and Liara's methods, but something told her today would be different. The air in the embassy hummed with energy, more than usual. The floating orbs glowed brighter, moving in patterns Clara had never seen. The baby lay in the crib, its tiny body pulsing faintly with light. When it saw her, it reached out its small hands, and Clara felt the familiar warmth in her chest. "Good morning," she said gently, kneeling beside the crib. "Are you ready for today?" The baby giggled softly and wriggled in response. Clara smiled and brushed the child's soft hands with her fingers. It was strange and wonderful to feel such a connection with a being so different from humans. Liara stood nearby, her tall figure glowing faintly in the soft light. "Today," she said, The child will begin advanced training. It is necessary for its survival and growth. Humans usually cannot participate in this stage. Are you ready to assist? Clara nodded firmly. She had faced fear before, but she would not let the baby suffer. I am ready, she said. Liara lifted her hands, and the orbs began to swirl faster than Clara had ever seen. The energy in the room grew intense, making the hair on her arms stand on end. The baby's glow brightened as the orbs moved in intricate patterns. Clara could feel the power radiating from them, and her heart raced. Remember, Liara said, this stage is dangerous if not controlled carefully. You must protect the child. Clara focused, placing her hands gently near the baby, letting it feel her presence. I am here, she whispered. You are safe with me. The baby's tiny hands reached for her, and its glow softened slightly. Clara could feel the child responding to her voice and touch, even amid the swirling energy. She realized that the balance between human care and Goran power was delicate. One wrong move could cause harm. Liara moved the orbs into a tight formation around the baby's head. The light pulsed rapidly, and Clara noticed the baby's body stiffen. She reached out immediately, placing her hands near the child, and spoke softly. Steady, you are safe. Breathe slowly. The baby's body relaxed slightly, and its glow dimmed to a soft, steady pulse. Clara breathed a sigh of relief, but knew the challenge had just begun. Liara's methods were about to intensify. Suddenly, the orbs shot into the air, forming a large dome over the crib. Energy streams pulsed through the dome, bright and powerful. Clara felt the force push against her, and she instinctively leaned closer to the baby. It's okay, she whispered. I won't let anything hurt you. The baby reached toward her, and its small hands seemed to grasp at the invisible currents of energy. Clara watched in awe as the child interacted with the force, moving it slightly with its tiny motions. Liara's eyes widened in surprise. Incredible, she said softly. The child, it is learning faster than expected, and you, human, your presence stabilizes it. Clara smiled faintly, though her hands trembled slightly. She had never seen a Goran child react like this, controlled and yet playful. The baby seemed to understand her words, her tone, and even her breathing. Clara realized that her influence was as important as Liara's technology. Liara began a new exercise, sending beams of soft energy toward the baby in a controlled pattern. Clara guided the child's tiny hands gently, letting it interact with the beams. The baby's glow pulsed brightly, and it laughed softly. Clara felt a rush of pride and wonder. Other staff members had gathered outside the nursery, watching silently. They whispered among themselves, astonished by what they saw. Humans had never been allowed to participate in this stage, yet here was Clara, guiding the child safely through the intense exercise. Suddenly, the baby reached for one of the faster-moving orbs. Clara's heart leapt. The orb was spinning too quickly and could have hurt the child. She moved her hands instinctively, creating a gentle shield with her presence. The orb slowed and hovered harmlessly, and the baby's tiny fingers touched it lightly. The glow of the child's body intensified, pulsing in rhythm with Clara's heartbeat. Liara gasped softly. The human, you have taught the child control over the energy. Clara felt a mix of pride and fear. She had never imagined that humans could influence Goran energy in such a direct way. The baby laughed and reached toward her again, its glow warm and steady. Clara realized that the child trusted her completely. Then, without warning, one of the energy beams shot faster than usual. Clara reacted immediately, pushing her hands toward the baby to protect it. The energy stopped just above the crib, but the sudden movement made the baby startle. Clara held it gently, whispering words of comfort. It's okay, nothing will hurt you. The baby's body relaxed again, its glow softening. Liara watched silently, her eyes wide. You are extraordinary, she said softly. I have never seen a human act with such instinct. You saved the child without fear. Clara swallowed hard. She had done what she had to do, but the praise felt strange. She was not used to being called extraordinary. She was just doing what felt right. Yet seeing the baby calm and happy, she felt a deep sense of pride. Liara continued the exercises, but now she moved slower, letting Clara guide the child through the energy patterns. The baby responded immediately, adjusting to the movements and the beams of light. Clara spoke softly, encouraging the child, and it seemed to understand her completely. The other staff watched in silence, clearly astonished. A human had never been so directly involved in advanced Goran training. Clara realized that this moment was bigger than she had thought. Humans were often underestimated, but here she was, showing that they could influence and guide even the most advanced aliens and their methods. Suddenly, the baby reached for the largest orb, which had been spinning rapidly above the crib. Clara's heart raced. She moved instinctively, placing her hands around the child. The orb slowed slightly, but the baby's tiny fingers touched it. Then something unexpected happened. The orb began to follow the child's motions, moving with its tiny hands. Clara gasped softly. The baby had somehow gained control over the orb, a level of power no Goran child had shown before. Liara's eyes widened in shock. "Impossible," she whispered. "The child, it can manipulate the energy itself." The baby laughed, and its glow brightened. Clara felt a rush of awe. She realized that the combination of Liara's technology and her human guidance had unlocked something extraordinary. The child was not just learning, it was discovering its own abilities. Liara approached Clara, her expression serious but calm. "You human, your methods, they are unusual. The child responds to you in ways I cannot predict. Perhaps humans have gifts we do not understand." Clara nodded, though her hands still trembled slightly from the intensity of the exercise. "I just do what feels right," she said softly. Liara studied her carefully. Then she moved closer to the crib, placing her hand above the baby. The glow of the child's body pulsed in response to both of them. Clara realized that together they had created a balance, advanced technology and human instinct, working side by side. As the day continued, Liara introduced new exercises. Energy beams moved in complex patterns, orbs spun in unpredictable ways, and the baby had to react quickly. Clara guided the child with gentle words and steady hands. The baby responded immediately, showing control and understanding beyond its age. At one point, an orb moved too close to the baby's head. Clara reacted instantly, shielding the child. The orb slowed, and the baby's tiny hands reached toward her. Clara held it gently, whispering comfort. "It's okay, you are safe." The baby's glow pulsed softly, and it laughed. Clara realized that she had done more than protect the child. She had taught it confidence and control. Liara watched in awe, clearly impressed. By evening, the baby was calm, glowing softly and content. Clara stepped back, exhausted but proud. She had survived another intense day, protected the child, and witnessed something extraordinary. She had discovered that humans could influence the galaxy in ways others could not imagine. Liara approached her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You are remarkable," she said softly. "The child trusts you more than I ever expected." "Perhaps humans are not as weak as we believed." Clara smiled faintly. She had learned an important lesson. Humans could adapt, understand, and protect in ways even advanced aliens could not. She had discovered her strength, and she knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges. But she felt ready. She had proven that humans were more than observers. They could be teachers, protectors, and guides in a galaxy full of powerful beings. That night, Clara lay in her quarters, thinking about the events of the day. She had faced fear, responsibility, and the unknown, and she had succeeded. She realized that humans had a place in this galaxy, not just as helpers, but as beings capable of extraordinary influence. And she knew that the next day would bring even greater challenges, where her courage and instincts would be tested like never before. The morning light of Velira 9 streamed into the nursery, casting a soft glow over the floating orbs. Clara stepped inside, her heart pounding with anticipation. Today felt different. The energy in the room was stronger, almost electric, and the baby lay in the crib, glowing faintly, its tiny fingers twitching with excitement. Clara knelt beside it, holding out her hands. "Good morning," she said softly. "Are you ready for today?" The baby responded with a high, musical giggle and reached toward her. Clara smiled, feeling the familiar warmth in her chest. She had grown attached to this child in a way she had never expected. It was small, fragile, and yet powerful in ways humans rarely understood. She realized that her connection with the baby was more than care, it was trust. Liara stood nearby, her tall figure glowing faintly. "Today," she said, "the child will undergo its final test. It is necessary to demonstrate control and understanding. Humans usually do not participate in this stage. Are you prepared?" Clara nodded firmly. "I am ready," she said, though her heart raced. She knew this stage would be intense. She had seen the earlier exercises, but today felt different. The energy in the room was stronger, and she could sense that Liara intended to push the child further than ever before. Liara lifted her hands, and the orbs began to swirl rapidly around the crib. The baby's glow brightened immediately, pulsing in rhythm with the movement of the energy. Clara reached out her hands, letting the child feel her presence. "It's okay," she whispered. "I am here, you are safe." The baby's tiny hands grasped her fingers, and its glow softened slightly. Clara realized that her influence was now as important as Liara's technology. The two of them together created a balance that no one else in the room had expected. Suddenly, Liara moved the orbs into a tight dome above the crib. Energy streams pulsed through the dome, brighter and faster than Clara had ever seen. She felt the force push against her, but she held her ground, keeping her hands close to the baby. "Stay calm," she whispered. "Nothing will hurt you." The baby reached toward her again, and its glow pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. Clara realized something astonishing. The child was responding more to her than to the swirling energy. Its tiny hands moved instinctively with her guidance, controlling the flow of light and energy. Clara gasped softly. She had never imagined that humans could influence a Goran child's energy so directly. Liara watched silently, her golden eyes wide. "Incredible," she murmured. "The human, you have taught the child control over the energy itself." Clara felt a mixture of pride and fear. The baby's powers were strong, and any mistake could be dangerous. She focused on keeping it calm, guiding its tiny hands and voice to respond with gentle motions. The child laughed softly, its glow steadying in response to her presence. The other staff members had gathered outside the nursery. They whispered quietly among themselves, astonished by what they saw. No human had ever been allowed to participate in this stage, and none had ever influenced a Goran child's power in such a direct way. Clara felt their eyes on her but did not let it distract her. Her focus was entirely on the baby. Liara decided to introduce the final part of the test. She activated a large, hovering orb that emitted strong pulses of energy. Clara felt the force immediately, strong enough to push her back slightly. She stepped closer to the crib, holding out her hands. "It's okay," she whispered. "I am here, you can do this." The baby's glow brightened and its tiny hands reached for her. Clara guided it gently, letting it interact with the powerful orb. The baby laughed, and its energy pulsed in harmony with her voice and touch. Clara realized that the child trusted her completely. She was not just a caretaker, she was a protector, a guide, and a partner in this test. Suddenly, one of the energy streams shot faster than expected, heading straight toward the crib. Clara reacted instantly, placing her hands around the baby. The energy slowed as if responding to her presence. She held the child close, whispering comfort. "It's okay, you are safe." The baby relaxed, its glow pulsing softly. Liara stepped forward, her eyes wide with amazement. "You, human, you have done the impossible," she said. "The child, it responds to you more than to me. You have unlocked its potential." Clara felt a rush of pride but remained focused. She knew the exercise was not over. Liara's methods were powerful, and the child's control over the energy had to be tested further. She guided the baby through more movements, using gentle words and steady hands. The child responded immediately, showing control and understanding beyond its age. At one point, the baby reached for the largest orb, spinning rapidly above the crib. Clara's heart leapt. She moved instinctively, placing her hands near the child to guide it. The orb slowed slightly, but the baby's tiny fingers touched it. Then something extraordinary happened. The orb began to follow the child's motions perfectly. Clara gasped softly. The baby had gained control over the orb itself, something no Goran child had ever done. Liara's eyes widened and she took a step back. "Impossible," she whispered. "The child, it can manipulate the energy itself." The baby laughed, its glow intensifying. Clara realized that the combination of Liara's technology and her human guidance had created something remarkable. The child was not just learning, it was discovering its own power. Liara approached Clara, her expression serious but calm. "You, human, your presence, it changes everything. The child responds to you in ways I cannot predict. Perhaps humans have gifts we do not understand." Clara nodded, though her hands trembled slightly from the intensity of the exercise. "I just do what feels right," she said softly. Liara studied her carefully. Then she moved closer to the crib, placing her hand above the baby. The child's glow pulsed in response to both of them. Clara realized that together they had created a balance, advanced technology and human instinct working side by side. Suddenly, the baby reached out and touched Liara's hand. The energy in the room surged, bright and intense, but it did not harm the child. Clara stepped forward, placing her hands around the baby, helping it control the surge. The baby's tiny fingers moved with confidence, directing the energy safely. Clara realized that the child was learning to use its power with guidance, not fear. The other staff members gasped softly. They had never seen anything like this. A human had guided a Goran child to control energy far beyond its years. Clara felt a mix of pride and awe. She had not only protected the child, but had also unlocked something extraordinary. Liara knelt beside the crib, her golden eyes fixed on Clara. "You are remarkable," she said softly. "The child trusts you completely. Perhaps humans are not as weak as we believed. You have proven that even the smallest beings can teach the greatest lessons." Clara smiled faintly, feeling warmth in her chest. She had learned an important truth. Humans could adapt, understand, and influence in ways even the most advanced species could not. She had discovered her strength, and she knew that this moment would change the way aliens viewed humans forever. As the exercise ended, the baby lay in the crib, glowing softly and content. Clara stepped back, exhausted but proud. She had faced fear, responsibility, and the unknown, and she had succeeded. She had protected the child, guided it through powerful energy, and demonstrated that human instinct and empathy could match advanced technology. Liara placed a hand on Clara's shoulder. "You have changed everything," she said. "The child, it listens to you. You have shown that humans are capable of greatness beyond what we imagined. Perhaps the galaxy should rethink its view of your kind." Clara felt tears prick her eyes. She had never imagined that a simple human maid could make such a difference. She had discovered that humans were not just small and fragile. They had instincts, empathy, and courage that could influence even the most advanced species. That night, Clara returned to her quarters, her mind buzzing with the day's events. She thought about the baby, the energy, and Liara's unusual methods. She had faced the impossible and emerged victorious. She had learned that humans had a place in the galaxy, not just as helpers, but as beings capable of extraordinary influence. As she lay in bed, she knew that her life had changed forever. The baby trusted her, the aliens had seen her courage, and she had proven that humans were not to be underestimated. She realized that her journey had only just begun. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but she felt ready. Humans could do more than survive in the galaxy. They could teach, guide, and inspire. And in that moment, Clara understood something profound. Sometimes the simplest touch, the softest word, or the smallest act of courage could change everything. The galaxy might be vast, filled with advanced species and powerful technology, but humans had something no one could measure. They had heart. And heart, Clara realized, was more powerful than anything else in the universe.